Viewer discretion advised. This week's episode of High and Low is brought to you in part by books. Books. Go to your local store and get a book. Brought to you by the Department of People Reading More. That's right, it's a real department. Come on by, we'll give you books. Hey cool kids, welcome to another episode of Hi and Hello. It's Monday, 4/22, so if you celebrated 4/20, congratulations you little stoner, you got away with it for another day. If you celebrated Easter on 4/21, congratulations believer. I hope that you got everything you wanted out of it, and I hope you didn't wake up too early just to go to church. That's something we did when I was a kid. We went to church for like Christmas and Easter, and maybe one or two little summer dates in there if we were acting strange. My parents just wanted to make sure we got all them demons out of us. It was always interesting going to church services on major holidays, though, because we weren't a part of any church by any means growing up. But technically, we would say we did. Like, if my parents were driving another adult in the car, they would make it a point to drive past the church we've gone to a few times and be like, oh, that's our church, that's our congregation. Nah, we were church posers, to say the least. But I do remember them Easter egg hunts, because you can't do Easter egg hunts during Christmas because that wouldn't make a lick of sense. The Easter bunny let Jesus out of the tomb. He didn't, take him out of the womb. Anyways, we used to go to these Easter egg hunts, and it was the shit. I remember there'd be like 46 kids and 10 million eggs, and they would just be everywhere. They didn't even take time to hide them. They would just walk around and just fucking empty out a garbage bag about 40 yards from the door, so it was a good run. But they were all the same. What really was awesome was when we were kids at my parents' house and we'd get all my cousins together, and then we'd do an Easter egg hunt, and those motherfuckers got creative. You had to seriously look. There was barely any eggs just out in the open view. Like, one time they put a fucking egg in an exhaust pipe and they started a car and they revved it and they shot that egg up into a fucking tree, and you had to climb the tree to get that goddamn egg. Hand to God. They got real creative with the shit. And then at some point they started putting money in the eggs, and it was game over. It was game over after we realized you could shake an egg and hear that change rattling around. Even crazier if you could shake an egg and hear nothing, because that was a bill. And somewhere along the line, I don't know if all my aunts and uncles pitched in on this or if my dad was just trying to make a kid's day extra special. But we had like 14 kids at a private Easter egg hunt, and they would put a $100 bill in one fucking egg. Are you shitting me? $100 when you're like 7 to 12? Oh my God. That's like seeing Santa Claus just in real life, not at a mall. Like, you woke up, you walked outside of your room, and right there's the tree, and there's Santa Claus. Right off the Coke commercial. He's right there. And you get to say, Santa, oh my God, how are you? And he goes, ho, 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 go back to bed. But he doesn't sound like your parents or any of your parents' friends. That's what it felt like getting that $100 egg. And you know what's crazy? Never got the $100 egg. If I did, I don't know what happened to that money. I could use it, but I don't know. It was a long time ago. That was fun, though. I remember my cousins all wanting to play poker, and I was still just a little too young, but a couple years got by, and I was able to play poker with the big dogs, even though they weren't even looking for eggs anymore. They were just bringing their own chips and cards. But I'd go out there and I'd find me maybe $7-8 worth of quarters, couple loose dollars, and all these eggs. If one sounded like candy, chuck it to the side. Let those baby walkers find it. You know, when you go to those Easter egg hunts with the baby walkers, and like, why are you even out there? The kid isn't going to remember doing Easter egg hunting. It can't fucking walk on its own. That's why it's holding your hand. It can't pick up the egg, and when it does, all it does is just put it in its fucking mouth, and then you gotta slap the kid on the back of the head and say, no, learn how to open it. You can't teach a fucking toddler to crack eggs, especially little colorful plastic ones. Are you kidding me? That fucking child's reality is now being fucking blown wide open because it's finding out that there's eggs with candy inside of them. What kind of fucking message you sending to these little kids? That's awful. They can't put that shit in their mouth. It's been on the ground, dog. The ground. Come on. Anyways, I'd throw the candy to those people. Fucking chuck it their way so they didn't have to drag their baby all around. Then I'd find me, like I said, $7-8 worth of quarters, couple loose dollars. I'd go into that kitchen swinging dick, and being like, all right, cash me in. Less than $10. I want 4 chances to lose more money, apparently. Because I never won playing poker with my older cousins. They had me on some bullshit. They'd be telling me that pocket aces loses to 2-3 offsuit. As you can tell, I said offsuit, so I've done some research since then. Those little fucking pricks used to take me for everything I had on Easter, on fucking Passover time of all times. They used to get their cousin on Easter. Well, I don't talk to the motherfuckers anymore, but you know who I do talk to? Jon Huck. I talked to Jon Huck for a hot minute. So without further ado, let's get to it. You seen him on Comedy Central's Live at Gotham. You seen him on This Is Not Happening. Fuck, he was on MTV's Punk'd. I know you remember Punk'd. He was now on another show, a little show called Superstore. Hulu it, bitch. It's fucking great. Lighters up, folks. Without further ado, Jon Huck is in the building. Hi and Hello starts in 3, 2, 1. Everybody, I'm here joined today with comedian Jon Huck. You've seen him on Comedy Central Live at Gotham. You've seen him on This Is Not Happening. His new series that he is leading in is My Death Co. You can find that online, and we'll get that in the plugs a little bit later. Jon, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Hell yeah. You're in
coffee.
Oh, thank you for using the Hi and Hello mugs.
Aha.
Available at hiandhello.com. You can't see me grinning, folks, but I'm smiling ear to ear. So you are in town playing Zanies, recording your new album. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
We'll get to that here in a little bit as well. Let's start at the beginning real quick. Where are you from?
I am from the suburbs of Chicago, from Warrenville, Illinois. Born and raised. Well, born in Winfield, Central DuPage Hospital, raised in Warrenville.
If you never got out of the small town, what do you think you'd be doing today?
I feel like I would probably have an office job, but I would try to make that office job something with, like, guitars. Does that make sense? Or something like, I'd still try to be doing something that I really enjoyed, you know?
Not to say that if you stay in the small town or anything, you have a worse off life than people who
not
get
at all. No,
I have plenty of friends who've stayed in my little town of 200, and they're probably making more money than me and got a fucking nice plot of land and this and that. But that's the life they choose.
Without question, they're making more money than you. It's like they have houses, and you're just like, I mean. But again, they're happy. That there's nothing wrong with it.
What was the experience like growing up in a small town? Did you have kind of like the Sandlot gang of friends, or were you in a more rural area where you were on your own mostly?
No, we weren't that small. I mean, it was a small town. I mean, it's bigger now. It's like it's a large community at this point, like much bigger than it was when I was a kid. But growing up, I would say 11,000 people. So You say a town of 200, that was a metropolis compared to your town.
Yeah.
But 11,000 people, like. Everyone knew. It felt like, as a kid, that everyone knew each other. Right. So my mom knew every other mom and all and the kids that I lived right across the street from the grade school. All those kids that I went to school with, a couple of them I'm still friends with. So one of them lives in the city. One of them lives still in Warrenville. But those two guys I met, like I met my friend Mike when we were in kindergarten, and he was in my wedding. You know what I mean? Like I've known this kid forever. He's probably the longest friend I've had, you know.
Yeah.
But I like coming back. It's fun.
It's got to be, man. It's fun for me too when you get out of the city and you get out of the 10 million people who are around you, and you never really stop and think about it. So it's nice to get a breath of fresh air out there. Did you start comedy out there?
I did not.
No?
I mean, if you could technically say, yeah, my dad and my brother, and you know, we were goofballs, but I didn't do stand up until I moved to LA. Which is kind of strange because, especially at the time, Chicago was like it's still a great scene, but even then it was like kind of coming up and sort of exploding, and I didn't know anything about it. I was like in the burbs with my finger in my ass, like I had no idea what was going on in the city, and then I just moved to Los Angeles, and people were like, what?
So who was the funniest adult around you when you were growing up? Was that your dad?
I would say it was my dad, yeah. I would say he always... You could watch, he could tell a story. And even if it was a story that like everybody had heard, you know, because he repeated himself all the time, like most people do. Like you got those gems. You're like, hey, have you heard the one? Like, yeah, I have, but tell it again.
He had the Thanksgiving experience, huh?
Yeah, he had. Well,
like he had that story at the back pocket all the time.
He had a couple of them that.
Oh, yeah.
But even though that I knew that my neighbor, his best friend, he'd heard the story. My mom had heard the story. I'd heard the story. My brother had heard the story. He would tell it again with like more relatives over or whatever, and we would just sit there like. And he really held the attention of people while he was telling the story. And you could look around and see people listening to him, adults and kids. It wasn't like he was just entertaining children. Like adults were also like, oh, this is a good story. This is entertaining, you know. And he told enough of those that me and my brother would just sort of imitate those stories. And that would make us laugh because then we were just kind of doing an impression of my dad. And that was just sort of funny anyway. And then... Yeah, I mean, from there, my dad also very into Laurel and Hardy, Three Stooges, Little Rascals, Abbott and Costello. Like, he collected the films. So, like, as little kids, we were watching all that on a screen in our basement from a projector, you know?
Right.
So that also sort of, you know, it put us on a weird path, essentially, because me and my brother had all this weird humor stacked up in our brains. We would, like, quote it and memorize it and do these little bits, but no one else was like, everyone's like, what are you doing? Like, what is that? Like, it's not funny, stop it. And it was more annoying. But then my friends started coming over and seeing like the movies in the basement, the Laurel and Hardy and all that. It's interesting because when my dad passed away, that was the one thing, like everyone who got a hold of me that I hadn't talked to in years was like, hey, I heard about your dad. I remember watching Laurel and Hardy, like still talking about it to this day. So it was like something that they only did at my house, never did anywhere else, and always remembered it. But to answer the question, my dad was the funniest adult that was around. My mom also very funny, but just more kind of strict or disciplined.
That's almost the same path that I've experienced, so
yeah.
I get that completely, man. Now, when you first started, how much of your dad's influence was around the way you would maybe approach a story was very like how you saw him do it, or was it original out the gate?
In the beginning, I don't think I really was a storyteller or told stories in my set. It was more like the setup and punch. You know, I really liked Mitch Hedberg, but I couldn't. You can't do like anybody else tells Hedberg jokes. They're not going to be funny. Does that you know? What I mean?
Absolutely.
Whereas you could repeat other people's material and you could get a laugh because the concept, because the punchline, or whatever. But you repeat a Hedberg joke to someone who doesn't like. You're doing it wrong. But
it takes a certain dialect.
Yeah, I mean, minus the flyer joke, which is here. You throw this away. I love
you throw that
away.
Rest in peace, man.
Dude,
I miss Hedberg.
Mitch was great. I mean, I was really bummed. I never saw him live, and I had a chance to see him on New Year's Eve, and I was like, I don't want to spend New Year's Eve in a comedy club because I was always in comedy, just always trying to hang out and do comedy. Right. I was like, I just want to go out, you know, and do something else. And I'll see him next time and that kind of thing. And that's why you should always go see everybody all the time because there was no next time.
It's profound, man.
But also I think about like, you know, what did I do that New Year's Eve? Fuck, who the fuck knows? Nothing. I don't remember. Like, but if I would have gone and seen Mitch Hedberg, I would have remembered that show.
Right. And it's funny you mention that, man, because I had a chance to go see Ralphie, and it was one of those things where I was just kind of like, it's Ralphie, you know, he'll be back in a year, and sure enough, woke up one day and was like, oh shit.
Yeah, I mean, and that's and living in LA, you start to take that stuff for granted a little bit. You're like, oh, I can see all these people all the time. It's no big deal. It is a big deal, and you should go see them as much as you can. You know what I mean? I go see Sebastian whenever he's at the store. I love that dude. Not
to start the show off on too much of a downer or anything, but just while we're on the topic, once again, man, sorry to hear about your friend Brody. That was a moment in recent comedy where I saw every comedian I've ever heard of kind of come together and share a kind word, and that was something that was just unreal.
Yeah, that was a huge loss, and like it's weird because like you said sorry about your friend, and I guess Brody was friend, but there are so many people that were like really tight with the guy that really, really knew him. But the amazing thing about him was that for everybody, they felt like he was your friend because he never forgot your name. And in Los Angeles, that is such a rare thing. I can't tell you. He never forgot your name, never forgot where you were from. He never forgot the things you like. He's like, Jon Huck from Illinois, Cubs fan. Like he just. I mean, that's also his brain. That was how he was. But so yeah, he felt like he always made you feel like you belonged. He was a good guy. That is a huge loss that I still think about on a daily basis. It's really too bad. We had him on. We had him on our podcast. He talked about going to the World Series. He had a ticket for one game of the 2016 World Series, and he went to every single game. So he only had a ticket for one. So he would just walk into these ballparks. People were like, "Hi." He walked onto the field without credentials.
Jesus
He went to preschool with Kevin Millar. He said that. I did a show with me. He goes, "I went to preschool with Kevin Millar. He had frosted tips." Made me laugh. But yeah, that was a bummer. I mean, that's really. The Comedy Store's still feeling that. I feel like the whole world is still feeling that. I don't know.
It's terrible that it happened, but it is beautiful to see that he is missed by so many. All right, let's hop back into the questions real quick. You ever think of the future,
or like when you're 70? Crazy thought, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah. When you're 70, there's going to be a bunch of people who can't fucking fight because or it's going to be a digital fight. Not to bully, but we should be taught to beat up the bully. I know it sounds silly, but because there's going to be something in life. It's nature that is going to eventually, if you're out there, you might be assaulted someday. That's a scary thought. I've been able to talk myself out of 2 possible ass whoopings. Have you ever had to talk yourself out of a fight?
Yeah, a couple times. But it was really just more like, what are you doing? And they were like, I think they felt stupid. So, yeah, a couple times it's happened. I don't know if I really talked my way out of it. I was just like, what's going on? Why is this happening? And they then realized that everyone could see them behaving the way they were behaving. And they felt very self-conscious about it, I think.
Has comedy ever gotten you into a sticky situation?
It depends on your definition of sticky. I've never almost been beat up or anything after a show. But
that's good.
I've done dumb, early on I would do dumb shit college kids or whatever. I'm on stage in some small town doing a one-nighter, and I used to talk a lot about weed, and after the show they were like, "Hey man, you want to get high?" And I was like, "Sure." And I went with them to their house, but it was kind of far away, and then you're just there, and you don't have a way to get home because you don't have a car. And then the guy who I was with was still on stage, and when he got off stage, I had to have him come and get me. It was just, I wouldn't say sticky situations, I'd say irritating. Just bad choices on my part. Now I'm I'll do the shows, I'll go back to the hotel. I don't really go too far out of that.
What was one of the best pranks you ever seen growing up?
Growing up?
Or it can be later in life, but if you got anything from, middle school to high school, I'll take it.
Pranks. That was not... Growing up, we weren't really pranksters. We were more ball busters. So, if one of us did something stupid, the rest of the group would just harp on that thing for a long time, to the point where when we all get together today, we still talk about that thing that someone did. I worked on a couple of hidden camera shows where it was all about pranks. And that was kind of not my intro, because I saw Candid Camera when I was a kid. It just was never pranking someone wasn't my thing. I kind of wanted everyone to either laugh together or just laugh at me, or I was never about... The only people I would ever make the butt of jokes were my good friends, who we were just doing that because that's what we were doing, But yeah, man, I don't know. Prank. I keep trying to think if I ever saw anybody do... my friends were just irritating sometimes, but I don't know if I'd call them pranks,
Well, that's good then, man, because you had yourself around some nice people. That's got to be fantastic.
Yeah, again, like I said, we mocked each other and made fun of each other to the point of, if you overheard it, you'd be like, well, that's not very nice at all. You guys are weirdos. But never I never called someone and pretended to be, a cop. And then, I'm sure we did, but it was "Hi, this is Steve Johnson," and you knew right away that it was your friend, and you were like, And it was just more of a joke than it was a prank.
I feel like the reason I kind of came to that question is because I'm part of what I like to think is the, right before Jackass came out and Viva La Bam era,
So that was something to where when we were younger, the class clown or the funny man in the room, who was always a dick to begin with. I'd like to think everyone's class clown was an asshole, unless you were your school's class clown. Then
in 8th grade, I was. Yeah.
Were you?
Yeah.
But 8th grade's still like tasteful. That's a refined
it was a real
time for
highbrow,
joke
real
writing.
highbrow 8th grader.
Right. Well, that's because there's smart kids around you, though. And you might not... Usually the class clown wasn't the smartest in the room sometimes because they're worried about listening to the joke or waiting for, the right time to hit a punch. So if
you're funny because you're not smart.
That's a tough room, I'm sure, with 8th graders.
Well, yeah, I don't know. And also, who knows about that garbage? It could have just been that the teachers were like less annoyed with me than they were with some of the other kids. But now that I think about what we were talking about, pranks, I guess the prank that I talk about the most, and I don't know if it's a prank or just complete mischief or just being a dick, but my really good friend, Chris, who still lives in Warrenville, who every time we get together, we still sort of get into some kind of trouble. We blew off school one day in high school, and we went to my parents' house because they both worked. And when I was doing something else, he went outside, and my dad had this bird feeder that he would watch. He would sit on the porch, watch the birds come to the bird feeder, and we were having problems with squirrels. So it was a weighted ledge, so the birds could stand on it and eat the bird food, but if a squirrel got on it, it would go down past the bird food, and they couldn't get to it. But it's all dependent on a spring in the back of the bird feeder. And for whatever reason, my friend Chris went out there and just readjusted the spring. It was just moving it over like 3 holes, and then never told me. So I'm sitting at home later that night doing homework or whatever, and my dad comes home from work, and he's sitting on the porch. He sits down with a martini, and he like starts looking at the bird feeder, and I hear, "What the fuck?" And he like gets up, and he goes outside. He's like, "How is this squirrel?" The squirrel was just on there, just eating all the bird food.
Oh,
he was
shit.
like, "What the fuck?" And he goes out, and he sees the spring was readjusting. He goes, "Who fucking touched this spring?" And he comes running in, and my first thought was like, "Oh my god, my friend Chris totally fucking moved that spring." And then, like, I hear my dad yell. He keeps asking my mom. Finally goes, "I don't know. It was probably Chris," because she also thought that. But that was like I said, I don't know if you call that a prank, but like I still laugh about that today, just because my dad like sat down, saw the bird feeder, and just like lost his mind. He was like, "Why is this happening?" So I guess that was a prank on my dad.
That's totally fair. I'll take that completely, man. Dad anger's the best,
Oof.
Especially when it's not your dad.
That's what they laughed at.
Exactly.
Dude, I crashed. I went 40 miles an hour backwards into a tree. Like,
what the fuck?
2 weeks after I got my license.
Oh, yeah.
Been there.
We made some terrible mistakes that day that involved a party ball, which was like the thing Budweiser used to put out. It was like a box, but inside the box was like all this beer and this weird ball you had to put a tap in. It was like,
holy shit.
like a mini keg kind of deal.
Like a portable bar.
Yeah, so we would get that thing because we were 15, 16 years old, and like 15 of us could drink it and be hammered,
Right.
And anyway, I crashed this car, and we're right outside my friend's house. I look at it, I'm like, "Do you think I could just tell my dad I ran into like a shopping cart or something?" And they're like, "No, dude, you hit a tree, and there's branches coming out of the what is wrong with you?" So they pull the metal off the wheel. That's as good as they can help me. And then I drive home at like 100 miles an hour because I'm still an idiot. And I get home, and I'm like, "Hey, I was in a car accident." And we go outside, and my dad is walking around the car, freaking out, right? He's screaming at me. I'm just standing there. And then I kind of just look, and I notice my friends in a car slowly driving by my driveway and then turning around and then driving by again, watching me get yelled at. And I was like, "Oh, that's their entertainment for the day."
It's the worst when there's witnesses. Like, if you were to have gotten yelled at just because, you know what I mean, it wouldn't have probably hurt that bad. Just, "Dad, I get it." You know what I mean? Yep, you win kind of thing. But the fact that somebody watched you get dogged on.
Well, also, they were there when I crashed the car. I deserved everything I was getting, and they knew that. And they were like, "You're an idiot. This is funny. Let's just be glad we're not all dead." And I was like, "Yep."
How old were you at the time?
I was 16 years old.
That's fucking nuts, dude. When we were living out in Louisville, Kentucky, a couple years back, there was this really slick curve. And I laughed all the time because you could sit at the little Dunkin' Donuts right there, and on a nice, like, rainy day, kind of like today, watch people just slide right off this curve. And one day we're coming around it, and I seen that there was a SUV, like this brand new Yukon, completely sitting straight up, and about 13 kids freaking
freaking out, laughing, taking pictures with their phones out, ha ha ha. And one kid just like, Dad, I'm sorry. Like, I don't know what to do. But like the fact that it was all those kids that had cell phones and they were just recording this moment, like the worst possible low of this dude's life. And he's probably 17, filled up his parents' Yukon with his friends and shit, and just hit that curve at the wrong moment. I've had so many times in life where everything's going from just 100, you're at aces, and now it's just completely negative 1,000. Just in an instant.
Dude, I am so thankful that I was young before the internet.
Yeah.
Before cell phones, before emails, before you could take a picture of somebody and it could go out to thousands of people without even thinking about it. You know, I mean, we did shit. We actually would videotape. My friend had a video camera. His parents did. We would videotape parties that we had at his house, which was also the dumbest thing you could possibly do. Like
putting it on record.
Years later, we're over there, and I just hear his mom in the other room, like, "What the fuck?" We go in there. She's watching one of the videos. She's, "What is this? When was this?" And then I go, and then like I'm saying, "Well, I wasn't. I'm not in this video. I can see that I'm not in it." So I'm like, "Yeah, what guys?" And then all of a sudden I come running into frame and I crash through and like my elbow goes through like a part of the drywall and yelling at me. I'm like, oh my God, like, oops, I guess I was there. Sorry. But that was stupid. And then there was one of the Simpsons episodes that I loved was they had a video camera and they're like out smashing mailboxes and one of them, either Curly or Nelson, is like, videotaping this crime spree was the best idea we've ever had. But because of course that shit's going to come back and bite you in the ass. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now kids put it out. They don't even know any better. They think that's what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I got it. Well, it's a picture of my friend's car in an accident. We got to put this out. Like, the parents might not even know about that yet. Like, everything is traveling at such a speedy rate. You know what I mean? You're getting all this info is just coming at you, and they're not thinking about 15, 20 years down the road because that stuff doesn't go away. You can't, unless you hire like, you know, some sort of a black hat hacker to like scrub everything about you off the internet. It's not going away, ever. So it's out there. So all your dumb shit is on display for all your future bosses to see.
That's something I've been thinking a lot about lately just because what are the scandals going to be when I'm 50 is what I've been thinking. Because what's going to happen when it's like President Chad is now in trouble because of, you know, his 7th grade Instagram post that somebody dug up. And it's like him dipping his nuts on his friend's face or something silly at a sleepover.
Yep. Which is a 7th grade thing, and who cares?
Right.
You know?
Right.
Also, it shouldn't be on the internet. But I agree, that's beside the point. Like, how far back do we go? When do you get this break? When is your reprieve? Because, I mean, I did things in college and high school. I was rude. I was an idiot. I got in trouble. Like, but that was part of growing up. You know,
right?
It's just now we can look at it and I can go, okay, that was part of my life that I know about. The people that were involved in it know about, and I've moved on, and we've all moved on. But instead of like having to see it repeatedly come up in someone's feed like over and over again, I feel bad for those kids because again, they think they're supposed to do that.
You have siblings, right?
I have a brother, 2 years younger.
2 years younger. Okay. Do you have? I know you have a niece or nephew. You have
my brother had a kid.
Yeah,
my brother had a kid in July 2016.
So you don't really have anyone around, like maybe cousins or something, who are from, let's say, 16 to 25.
No, all my nieces and nephews are young kids. I mean, 16 to 25.
Now, what I'm really getting at here with this though is, I had an incident the other day that kind of pertains to what we're talking about. My younger brother, who just now starts social media, for example, right, has been able to now go back and see who I was the last 9 years and my parents were the last 9 years. And that's another reason why I'm glad we're talking about this, just because that wonder of like, oh, fuck, just like what happened to Kevin Hart with the Oscars, you know, like something that you put out now from 8 to 9 years ago. Yeah, you're right. How far back are we going to go? Eventually there's going to have to be a case where it's like, dude, my parents made me this Facebook account when I was born as a joke, and I just kept going with it. Like, it's weird, man. It's fucking futuristic, dude.
Yeah, I mean, look, the podcast I co-host with my friend Brian Irwin, and he's got 2 kids, and you know, before he had kids, he's doing sketches and doing stuff online, and that's what we were doing. We were comics. We were trying to make content, you know. But now his kids are the age where they can go on the internet and they can Google search their dad. And then all this stupid nonsense comes up, and like what I told him was like, your kids are gonna get embarrassed because their friends are gonna see your dumb sketches, and then they're gonna go, "Hey, your dad is an idiot." You know what I mean? Like the stuff that we thought was funny 10 years ago, and now 10 years from now, people are gonna look at it and go, "What are you doing? This sucks." And obviously it does, but now kids are gonna see their parents on there. Yeah, it's a weird. It's a weird thing, I don't post too much about my nieces and nephews just because I feel like that's not my place,
Right.
I always ask my sister-in-law says, please post more. Like, we think you don't like her. I'm like, that's ridiculous. But also, she's a kid and she doesn't have a say in it. So that's not really fair. Like, I wouldn't want all my dumb baby shit on the internet, It's like, we're lucky that we can pick and choose. I can take a bad picture of myself from high school and put it up on purpose and say, haha, and not have to have it show up somewhere and me go, oh, yeah.
That is one of my favorite parts of being home, though, is to physically open a scrapbook, like something that my mom put a bunch of time into, and actually hold something physical and not like just go through a quick Google-made video because she took 15 photos and it threw in Seasons of Love from Rent on it just because it's Valentine's Day or something.
Edit it together for you.
Yeah. Make you into a dancing elf. But one of the things that I am already nostalgic about is blank tapes. The joy of finding blank tapes.
XLs.
Yeah, I ended up picking up a VHS player off Amazon, which is such a strange sentence to actually say, because they don't sell them anymore, obviously.
Like VHS tapes?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like
I thought you were talking about like cassettes, like Maxells.
Oh, well, like those as well, just to see if anyone's got a weird manifesto at a yard sale you can buy. It's just a bunch of crazy shit. But like that was one of the biggest things for me as a kid, because when I would go over to friends' houses and shit, they would have VHSs, and sometimes they were blank. And you don't get to see like, oh, this is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, or this is Wizard of Oz. You get to really find out. Like, that's such a gamble, the old blank VHS tape.
Yeah, it depends. Yeah, especially depending on where you are. Like, I had some friends who, again, blew off school in high school, went to another friend's house, threw in a blank VHS tape, and it turned out to be that dude's parents fucking.
That's how it goes, man.
Oops.
Oops-a-daisy. So what is something from your youth that you still chuckle about?
I would just say that I have really funny friends,
Yeah.
They always made me laugh. It was always, and my brother was really funny. Is really funny, I should say was. He is really funny, and we just, being young in a town like that was a lot of fun. We could ride bikes, we could leave in the morning, come back at night. No one was worried about us getting kidnapped. My mom was like, who's going to want these idiots? Like, there was no concern about that, Everybody knew each other. Growing up, like, we went pool hopping, and we, you get into high school, and, like, my friends, we like to have fun, but I don't think we were malicious. Like, we would get beer, we'd get people to buy us beer, then we would, go through my friend's backyard, through the woods, into this other neighbor's house, go into a giant pool they had, and just start swimming and drinking beers, and genuinely being annoying, but like not doing anything wrong. And then we got caught, had to run from the cops, and it was like, I had to break into my own house, and then it was just a whole process of things that happened in a night. But like that was like kind of not typical, because that was a little bit much. But for the most part, we like went out, got into some trouble, hung out. I mean, I just really enjoyed. When I look back on it, especially, I'm sure. For some reason, I had a lot of anger, too. Like, I was angry as a kid, and then even through college, I had anger that not 100% sure where it came from, not 100% sure why, but I was very frustrated. I just don't think anything, I was always, like, kind of railing against what was happening. And when you do that, you just bring on your own suffering. And I think that's what was making me angry. I wouldn't accept things the way they were. And I've kind of moved on from that. And when I look back on it, it's just weird to me, because everyone was really nice to me. I had great friends. My family has always been supportive. But I was still like somehow like this brooding weirdo,
Was that before you started doing comedy?
Yeah. But also even partly into when I was doing comedy. I was, I went through a like kind of a bitter, I would say maybe like a jealous stage. I don't know.
Now, a lot of people always ask, like, hey, where'd you start? And, tell me about the club you started at. But I was just more curious about, when did you decide to be a comedian?
I mean, I did some open mics, and it was pretty quick. Like, that first open mic I did, I had someone come up to me. And all I did was, I think I just read bus directions. I think I was like, I couldn't think of jokes, so I like flipped open a notebook and I was like, oh, here's how you get here from Echo Park. And I was like, take the 2 bucks, and like people were laughing, and I was like, oh, weird. But it was, my delivery, my appearance at the time, it was a combination of things. And then I didn't really do well at the rest of the set, but afterwards somebody said, hey man, you were funny. And I was like, oh, thanks, and I just wasn't, I guess that was when I was like, I want to keep doing this. Like, it was like the first open mic, I realized that I wanted to keep doing it. So it was kind of the first time I was on stage. I was like, yeah, this is... And even after I tanked, I had one show where I bombed the hardest I have ever bombed in front of like 40 coworkers. And I came outside and I was like, well, maybe I'm not a comic. Maybe I can't do this. And my friend Tim, who I moved to Los Angeles with, who I went to college with, said... He came outside. He was the first person I talked to. And he goes, well, that's over. And I thought he meant your comedy career, your idea of comedy, it's over. And I was like, yeah, right? And he goes, no. What I mean is... That's over. You got that out of the way. That is the worst. That's the worst possible scenario in there. You'll never do that bad again. It would be impossible to do that bad again. And I was like, I started to think about it and I was like, you're kind of right.
Yeah.
Like there's nowhere to go but up. Like that was it. That was the worst I've ever done on stage ever to this day. And I've had shows that have gone in silence, but that's still, I'm able to remember material. I can joke about it as it's happening, but like that was just awful,
That first set was a rough one.
That first one that was like, they told me was like a regular set, and it turned out to be Latino Comedy All-Star Night, and I was the only white guy on the bill, and
oh wow.
Then I was like, this was at a stage when I drank at least 3 beers before I went up. So they don't put me up until 11 o'clock. I'm there at 8. I drink like 12 beers. I mean, I look like an idiot up there. You know what I mean? But like my friend said, it's never going to be that bad again. And it wasn't. It never was. And I continued. And I think that's when you can see the weeding out, is like you can kind of go to these open mics and there's all these people. And then it kind of, as you realize that, Jesus, sometimes you're just not going to do well. And if you can't accept that or you can't handle that, you kind of you leave. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's so many people that you kind of start comedy with that are not there 5 years in. They're gone. They've done something else. They got a family. They moved. They're happy somewhere else.
At least they're happy.
Yeah. No. That's and also good for people who are like, you know what? I tried it. It's not for me. I'm out. Like, that's great, because it's either that or you force yourself to do something you're not into, and then you just become miserable, and that's when you're like super jaded and super angry and just not. That's not healthy.
Well, folks, real quick, if you're hearing those little tingle tangles, it's because the damn skies have opened up and
is that rain?
Noah's Ark has happened.
Oh, crazy.
We're fine. We're not going to sweat it. Who was the most nerve-wracking comedian to open for in your career so far?
Nerve-wracking. I mean, there's ones that I've been really excited for. I wouldn't say it was nerve-wracking. It was just, you definitely want to do good. You want them to see you and think you're funny. But I mean, I got to feature for Jim Brewer at the Brea Improvs, and that was just fun because he's a nice guy. Do you know what I mean? So I guess it's nothing nerve-wracking. I mean, your nerves are always there. Like, you want to do good, and especially when you're working with someone who you respect or you enjoy as a comedian. Man, you want to do good. So I would say even like Harlan Williams, I want to do well in front of. Brewer was good, but even like Dan Cummins, like I want these guys who take me on the road to like me and think that I'm a good comedian. It's important to me.
Do you like the road?
I'm getting better at it. Like I really liked it when I was younger, but I barely ever went out. And then when I did, because it was so rare, I ended up kind of overdoing it on food, on booze, on everything, And that was just, you come back bloated and you just feel like garbage, and it took me a while to recover. And now I'm good. Like now it's rough. Like I don't enjoy necessarily being away from my wife for that long, because I'm did a 2-week run this time. So that's the longest I'll be gone. Usually it's just a weekend, and that's not a big deal. Fly out Thursday, come back Sunday, and that's not a problem. And I'm not out every weekend, so it's not terrible. But I've become pretty good at being by myself and just enjoying. And now I try to really take in wherever I am. Like I try to walk around and go, if they have a free museum, I didn't used to do that. I used to be so hungover that I would just sleep most of the day and then go out and do the shows at night and then do the whole thing again. I have no desire to do that anymore, and my body hates it, so I don't. And then that gives me my day to go out. Like in Cleveland, I went Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and And Nashville, we went to the Country Music Hall of Fame and went to the Ryman Theater. And, any kind of, in Cleveland, I saw a Superman exhibit that was just happening at the library because he was just walking around, And I love baseball. So if I'm somewhere and there is a game I can get to, minor league or professional, I will do my best to make it to a game. I'm trying to see every ballpark, So I was last year I got to headline a place called The Loft in D.C. And I went to the Nationals Braves game. Never been to that stadium. That was awesome. I was in Denver with Dan Cummins. I went to a Rockies game. I'm going to be in Boston in a couple of weeks, go to a Red Sox game for the first time. I don't know. It's like that, doing that. And then if there's any way to see live music during the day, like in Nashville, there were bands playing during the day. So I would go do that because that's just awesome.
I got to ask, you're in town, you going to go see a Cubbies game, or are you one of them Southside Pride guys?
I am definitely a huge Cubs fan, and I am going to try to go to a game on Saturday. I think I have a guy I used to work with in Los Angeles is in town. He works for a company that might have tickets. So
hopefully it doesn't get snowed out like last week.
That's the other thing is it could be raining, it could be snowing, but either way I would try to go just to see an inning,
That'd be a beautiful way to spend your 420, my friend.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be a fantastic day.
Yeah.
So, with your last comedy album, and shoot a plug for it real quick, for the folks at home listening, if you'd like to check out Jon's first album, it is entitled
Fantasticular Hilaritation.
Tough to spell, but it's on his website.
Yeah, you can just go
as well.
Yeah, you can go to www.jonhuck.me, JONHUCK.me, and then there'll be a link to it.
How much prep did you put into before your first album?
That was it was a while ago, so that was 2011 or 12 that I did that, and so that's 12 years, basically, 11 years, I started doing comedy in 2000. Yeah, 11, 12, 13 years, basically. It was everything that I'd worked on that far that was worth anything. You know what I mean? It was I think it's only 48 minutes or something like that, but I was proud of it. I'm still proud of it. I think it's good. I think it represents who I was at the time, and it's not who I am now, which is also interesting. But I got a very nice compliment from Ryan Stout, who is exceedingly funny. If you
absolutely
don't know Ryan, please check him out. But he recently re-listened to my first CD, and was nice enough to let me know. He's like, dude, all those jokes hold up. They're evergreen. They're timeless. You don't date it at all. And I do actually say the year within it, which is a dumb thing to do, but so it is sort of dated. But at the same time, that was really nice to hear from a comic who I like, that even though I wasn't that person anymore, those jokes were still strong and representative of who I was at the time.
What about comedians do you respect? What's something that comedians do to, you see so many throughout the year, because sometimes you might just show up to a city and not even know who you're going on stage with. What are some qualities in a comedian that you look for when you're trying to listen to comedy?
Well, if I'm people that I like to listen to, or people that I would don't mind being in a green room with. I guess it's kind of the same.
Yeah.
I just like people who, I guess, seem comfortable on stage, and then the qualities. If they make me laugh, you know what I mean? That's really the thing, is if they're funny up there, like the two guys last night, Vic and Steven, were both really funny, you know what I mean? And I like that. That means the audience, because I feel like I'm going to do a good job because they're getting good laughs, you know what I mean? So the audience is already ready to go, and they're having fun, and then they get a whole show that's worthwhile. I think people who go to a lot of comedy don't expect much out of the MC or the feature, and then when they're not terrible, it's a nice surprise. That was the number one thing said to me with on the road with Dan or Harlan, was I didn't really have any opinion of you, and then I was like, oh, you're really funny. It was yeah, you can get people to like you, but maybe as far as I just like people who aren't. I don't want to be around someone who's a pain in the ass. If they're annoying the club owner, if they're annoying, if they yell at the audience, if they are rude, to the wait staff. I don't like any of that. I feel like there's no place for it. And also the qualities I look for are the people that want to do this because they like making people laugh. You know what I mean? The idea that you're in this room and everyone is connecting on this thing and everyone's laughing at the same time, and they enjoy that. And if they enjoy that, then we're probably going to get along, because you can't really be I'm going to be a famous comedian. I'm going to be a rich comedian. It's
right.
No, your best hope is to be a working comedian. And that should be enough. I mean, that you should be very happy that you get to go around and make people laugh.
Now, was that any issue when you first started out dealing with club management and dealing with people out on the road? Did you ever get any pushback or have to deal with, new comic rituals or anything?
Like I said early on, I didn't get on the road a lot. And when I did, it was through a friend of a friend. It would be like, I'd worked with Steve Byrne on a TV show. So his manager I had met, he was like, okay, we'll put you together for some shows in Ohio. I didn't like go on tour with Steve. I did a weekend with him. And that weekend was like probably one of 3 weekends I had all year where I was out somewhere else. And a lot of those were like, triple runs where I would have to drive up with another comic to like Montana and then work our way down and do shows every night in different kind of smaller towns.
That's got to be a good time though.
I mean, you do those. You always do those runs with people you like. I think I've done 3 or 4 of them, and I did. And everybody I went with were people that I got along with. I forced one of my friends who didn't want to do comedy anymore to do it so that I could go with him and not anyone else. But it's fun, and it's. You definitely, you get, again, I was a little bit bitter because I wasn't like booking, rooms somewhere else or clubs or whatever. I was doing these bars and but at the same time, it is fun, man. You're driving up into these crazy areas that you would never go to for any other reason than because you had a gig there.
Longest trip to Walmart.
Oh man. and you meet some crazy people, and me and my buddies still laugh about some lunatics that we met on the road. You get some real sweet war stories from doing triple runs.
Well, from one Midwest boy to another, what's it like out in LA for you? How was that at first when you got out there? Was there a lot more of those interesting road people all set in one area?
Not really. I mean, I did not fit into LA right off the bat. I was probably a bit much. We would go to parties, me and my friend, and I'm sure everyone was like, dude, what is wrong with you? But at the same time, to overcompensate for my social awkwardness, I would then pound 15 beers. And then I was like, yeah, now look at me. I'm super social, even though I just broke your lamp. And, I don't know what I'm doing or where I am. But so when I first moved out here, it was, I had kind of a rough time, but again, my buddy was still with me. He wasn't going anywhere. He was still going to be my friend, and so I kind of had him, and he started to he got work, and then, now I love it. I mean, I love Los Angeles. I think it's a lot of people complain. I think it's a fun city. I think there's a lot to do. I think, I like doing comedy there. I like being near all those clubs, but I also like my apartment, and I like sitting inside watching TV with my wife. You know what I mean? I don't need to be out every night if I don't have a spot, and I don't need to be, now I'm like an old man. Nothing good happens after 11, dude. I don't need to be out after 11 unless I have some weird late night spot that I would be getting,
And even at that point, is that spot really worth it?
Dude, believe me, those thoughts, it's how far of a drive, what time, how many minutes am I getting,
10 or 15, how we're doing this.
And it's
sometimes 7.
Oh, yeah, and my favorite is
when it's...
And
that's for people who've been in the business, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, somebody who called me is like, hey, man, you want to drive 45 minutes to do 8 minutes? And honestly, it depends. If I have, a new 8 minutes that I'm excited for, I'll drive wherever to do it. You know what I mean? But if I'm going to go there and I know all I'm going to do is tell the same jokes I've been telling, then I'm probably going to not do it. You know what I mean? At this point, because those jokes are already on the verge of becoming stale to me. And if I'm trying to record them, I want them to be fresh and fun. And I feel like they're kind of new again. So every show I've been doing newer stuff and not really focusing on what I'm going to record. Because I was already thinking about what I'm going to do after I'm done recording this stuff. I can keep it for a little while and I can, change it around and do whatever. But for the most part, I just want it to go away. Once it's recorded, that's the proof that I did it, and there it is, and I want to move on because you go insane if you just keep telling the same jokes over and over and over again. I can't do that.
Now, your podcast, Hollywood Anonymous, how long have you guys been doing that show again?
We have 147 episodes.
Is that one a week?
one a week. We've had some weeks off. We've been doing it since about 2015.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I really enjoy it, man. You guys have
Thank
some
you.
fantastic comedians on, and you and your co-host banter. His name one more time?
Brian Irwin.
Brian Irwin?
Yeah.
Gosh, it's difficult, man. It feels like we always have so much to retain that we constantly have to remember everybody's name and every little bit. One of the things that I often kind of see that I face is having less knowledge of references because I didn't have older siblings and I was living out in the middle of nowhere. So I'd like to have a buddy on here. I think I might get another one on just who's a little bit older, just to have that extra know-how. Because I've definitely had times where I'm talking to people and I'd be like, "Hey, what's your favorite movie?" And instead of pulling out something
that you've seen,
that would be like a recent reference.
They pick something like 20 years old.
Yeah, or something. If it's in black and white and it's like a B-list black and white film, like that's more difficult for me to obviously pull out of my ass.
Yeah.
VH1 was a big help growing up, just because I could watch like I love the 90s and I love the 80s and I love the 70s, and here's just these decades chunked for you real quick. It's like pick and choose.
Yeah.
So that's something that I've used in the past when I'm preparing to write or like preparing to talk to somebody, just trying to find references from their age range. You know
That's
what I mean?
Smart. That's smart.
What is the process for you when you and him are sitting back talking to somebody who's another comedian, and do you hold back certain conversations or certain topics or even certain one-liners in the conversation just because it might reach somebody else who could yank that joke or take that bit? Have you ever developed off of something you've said on your podcast?
Yes, I've definitely written from things I've said on the podcast, but for the most part, we do that podcast, we don't edit it down, and it just goes out. So, and then it's kind of over, and I don't think about it again. Like, I don't think, oh man, this was if I did say something funny, usually I put it into my phone after I've said it while we're still recording. But that's also what I do with anything. If I'm anywhere and I think of something funny, I put it in my phone immediately because I have a shit memory and I will not retain that information for very much longer. But
Preach.
With Brian, I feel like he's sort of like a not the play-by-play guy and I'm the color commentator, but like neither of us do research on the guests. So even if we know them, we don't know everything about them. And if we don't know them, it's even better. If we don't know them that well, it's even better. And then Brian is really good at asking the questions and like driving the conversation and driving it to wherever. And it leaps all over the place. We try to make it as casual and as conversational as possible. And we got a very nice compliment from like people like Jimmy Schubert and other people who were like, "Hey man, this was great. It didn't feel like we were talking that long." And it's just literally like friends shooting the shit, holding microphones.
Right.
So, and when you have a comic on, they know how to hold a microphone. So if you have somebody who doesn't, you have to just tell them how to do it. But other than that, it's like Brian sort of drives that. And then I chime in with my shitty, jokes and whatever I want to say. And then also Brian is hilarious. Like Brian is a stand-up comic. He just doesn't do it that much anymore. He's a director. He's a producer. The guy does a lot, And plus he has 2 kids and a wife, and he's got to deal with all kinds of shit going on. But he's also, like you said, he is a little bit older than me, but he's also very knowledgeable in all, like, he kind of knows what his kids are into. So that's sort of a younger thing. He definitely knows what I'm into because I'm vocal about it. And he also knows people my age all over the place. And then, like, what he's into is probably, like, a little bit under what normal people his age would be into. Meaning, like, he still likes Batman and, like, you know what I mean? Whereas someone who's, like, his age, who works at a bank or whatever, is like, dude, whatever, I come home, I have soup, and I go to bed, Oh,
God, what a terrible life.
Well, I mean, again, it's to each his own, but I think Brian is kept it fairly young for who he is, you know what I mean? Like, his wife is cool, like, they have fun, like, his kids play sports, he's good at interviewing. He was in radio, which he'll bring up constantly, but
I've caught enough episodes to know he was in radio.
Always
for a minute.
But honestly, that is a helpful thing. He's interviewed bands, like he tells stories about interviewing bands that did not want to be interviewed. So he's got to pull and fucking prod and get information on these people who just want to tell him to fuck off, and he was good at it. So he's got that, and it's great because I just follow along, and then I throw out my own questions, or I kind of try to get philosophical about some things, and sometimes I feel like I ramble a little bit, but that's also who I am.
Well, that's human nature, man. We can't control all of our vocal tics or even our brains sometimes, especially if we're on a roll and we know where we're getting to.
Yeah.
That's always
Moving
the most
towards
difficult
something.
part, is to be like, I know this is all going to sound crazy and I'm going to throw 3 references in a story at you, but just know there's a point.
Yeah.
And which I would say I had to help you in your writing this new album, just because you're used to weekly having that conversation, building some kind of a narrative, engaging so often.
Yeah.
Because not a lot of people will sit down an hour a week and just talk to people for X amount of time. I've had people on the show who are just like, this is like, I'm going to start doing this. And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, just talking to people for like face to face and looking at them in their eye. These major cities, coming from a more rural area, dude, it's insane. People don't look each other in the eye anymore unless it's like, I want you directly to look at me because I need something to you.
Yeah.
Whenever like somebody needs something, is the real times like you get eye to eye conversations on the street. It feels like.
Yeah. I mean, there is something to be said for that. The art of conversation is slowly dying, and we're kind of bringing it on ourselves, by more texting and no phone call. Like, someone calls you on the phone, you're like, what are you doing, weirdo? Don't call me on the phone.
Did you ever get to a point where like that was kind of the case, or have you always been all right with people giving you a call?
I've always been all right with it. I think if I text somebody and they call, I'm always weirded out by that. I'm like, why are you just texting you? Like, I don't talk on the phone very often. It's pretty rare. Like, I talk to my mom on the phone because we live far away. And
right.
Texting doesn't do it. I FaceTime with my brother and my niece. And I talk to my wife when I'm out of town on the phone. But that's really it.
You're on the road enough to go to some crazy hotels, I'm sure, or stay at like comedy condos or something. So you see actual house phones probably fairly often. How many house phones do you think you see a year?
There's one in the apartment here.
Yeah.
It's a cordless, but it's a house phone.
Okay.
And then I would say there's probably one in every condo and every hotel. I will say, if we're talking about places to stay on the road, Comfort Inn Suites is the best.
Yeah, is that the best?
They are the best. They have a full-on free breakfast in the morning, talking eggs and cereal and yogurt and apples and coffee and juice and bagels and muffins, and they got everything. It's great. I love that place. Like, I've been staying there more and more, but kind of accidentally, just how the club will put you up or whatever. But that place is great. But yeah, in the condos and stuff, there's a home phone. There's a landline. Yeah.
Now, what do you?
My parents still have landline.
Do you think that's going to be something that is nostalgic in 40 years?
I have a joke where I say that I talk about my dad and how he was like. That's where I learned about dad anger, and at the end of the joke, I say that he would kick you down an open elevator shaft for getting the phone cord on the wall tangled up. Meaning, we have a wall phone in our kitchen, and it's got a long cord on it.
Is it like one of those 9-footers?
Yes.
And you go in the other room with it?
That thing it used to be so long, it used to get wrapped up, and my dad would go insane. He would be like, what the fuck are you doing with it? He would just unwrap it, and then he called 911 accidentally probably 5 times doing that. Just
Holy
like
shit.
Grabbing the phone and getting violent with it, and then putting it back on, and the phone ring, and I'd answer, and they go, yeah, you called 911? I'm like, no, my dad was fucking with the phone again. Sorry.
We were talking pranks earlier. I remember listening to like a Bob and Tom on the way to school one day, and they had this phone number that you could call, and this was way before apps on phones. It was still flip phone time, and you could call the phone number, and you would dial in the number you wanted to call and the number you wanted to appear when the person gets the call.
Oh.
And so you could dial your cousin's phone number and then say, I wanted to say 911 to pick up on their end. It was just this little like get around that they had been like, oh, we found this thing, we'll put it up on our website, but here's the number. And I got the number, and I was like, oh, we're doing this right now. And I called my cousin from the school bus, and 911 popped up on his phone, and he answers it, and he's like, hello? And I go, yeah, this is 911. We just received a phone call from you. We're wondering if we should send medical or police. And he was like, I didn't call 911. Like, I didn't do that at all. And I just kept it going. And I was like, all right, sir, well, can you put your parents on the line? Just because he's like 15, 16. And I hung up, called back, and my aunt answered the phone the second time. Same process. did it 3 times, and I just kept laughing and like hanging up. Well, she ended up calling 911 from the house and being like, "We've received 3 phone calls from you. Like, what the fuck is going on?" But yeah, that just popped in my head when you were saying he called 911 on accident.
That's a good prank, though.
Yeah, it was fun.
That's solid.
It was fun. I wish though, like I could have once again gotten it on film. That's an Instagram. That's Instagram gold, man.
Yeah, until you're trying to get a job and they're like, "Oh, prank phone call guy," and then they don't like you.
Hopefully, it's the prank phone call guy and not the guy from the podcast called High and Low.
Dude, you know they're bringing back Jerky Boys? They're doing another Comedy Dynamics, I think, is putting out another Jerky Boys album.
Holy shit.
That's way before your time, I'm assuming.
Little bit, but I'm still familiar. I was the one who got really excited when they did an extra Mr. Show on Netflix.
Ooh.
So that was...
Mr. Show was...
Trying to keep up, wading in the water.
Mr. Show is one of the best written... I loved it. I mean, it's such a good sketch show. Like, everything weaves together, and it's very like a combo of everything that's good with comedy. I loved Mr. Show. It was so good.
I didn't get around to catching the Better Call Saul show, but
oof, god damn, that's good.
Is that a good show?
Oh my God,
I've been hearing that it's fantastic.
Yeah, Odenkirk is awesome.
I really enjoyed Bob in Breaking Bad. There's once again so much out there to try to keep up with.
Yeah, I understand. But if you watch Breaking Bad, the coolest thing I think about Better Call Saul is that we already know where his character ends up. We already know what he was like at the end of Breaking Bad. How did he get there? And that's what that show is. And I think it's very, if you're going to do a spin-off on any character from that show, and then you keep that other guy, Mike, involved, that hitman guy.
Yeah.
That is the perfect spin-off. I mean, it's so good. It's so good.
All right, real quick, we got a few questions, and then I'll have you on your way because I know you got another show tonight. First up, and these are questions from comedians that are here in Chicago. I put a post out saying that I was going to interview you, so I grabbed some of the funnest questions for you.
Okay. That's awesome.
If you could turn any movie or television show into a musical, what would you choose?
Jaws.
Jaws the musical?
Yeah. I would choose Jaws or Apocalypse Now.
Ooh. Now, would you have the shark and or the gun or something, sing a song like something silly?
I think most of the singing, it wouldn't be the shark. It would be the guys on the boat for Jaws. They would be singing, and everybody in it. Like, Brody's wife is in the beginning. The first half, the kids are in it. The other kids at the beach. That would all be musical. Like, why isn't anyone go? The mayor would sing a lot. The mayor in Jaws is such a good character. That guy just smokes cigs. He wears that suit jacket that has little anchors on it, and I want to keep the beaches open. He's just a piece of shit. He's just a total piece of shit. He's like, my kids were on that beach too young. Well, you're an asshole, dude. And then what I love is when it comes to election time and people start posting, hey, just remember that the mayor from Jaws 1 was still the mayor in Jaws 2. Get out and vote, people. How does this guy stay the mayor? He wouldn't shut the beaches down. Everyone gets eaten by sharks, and they're like, let's re-elect him. Like, who cares? But I think Jaws would be the best musical. Apocalypse Now would be, you could make it kind of like Rent, I guess, a little bit. Kurtz could do a little bit more movement. Dennis Hopper could just improv. He could just scat and improv his lines all over the place. Skibbity bop bop. Dennis Hopper. He's saying his name over and over again. But yeah, I think those would be good musicals. I thought, you could do like a comedy, like you could do Tommy Boy, but I don't think Tommy was already almost a perfect movie. So, and both Jaws and Apocalypse Now are also perfect movies, but I think they would be great musicals.
Next question. That was a really good fucking answer, man. I just can't stop thinking about the mayor from Jaws just like kicking sand like it's singing in the rain, and he's like, keep it open.
We don't care about your safety.
The shark ain't the real problem. It's the tourist financial.
Yeah, it's like they're all gonna go under if they don't get all the tourist stuff. And also, here's what I don't like is when they're all the tourists come and they're all on the beach. They're all there. They're all paying money. They're all eating the ice cream. They're all living there for the summer. He's still like, no one's going in the water. Who cares?
Right.
Who cares if no one goes in the water, dude? You're the mayor, not a lifeguard, dude. Don't be pushing people. It's not an all swim. You don't need everyone. As long as they're there, they're consuming. When they go in the water, they don't spend money in the water. Money doesn't fall in their pockets in the water. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So then when he forces all these people in, it's become a meal. It's like, all right, well,
gotta push the plot, man.
Shitty mayor. Yeah,
I love to be in that writing room. Hey guys, what if no one just like why do we have to go in the water?
The mayor thinks that's how he makes his money. Everyone has to go in the water. All right, fine. The mayor doesn't. Who cares? The mayor's a psycho. Yeah, all right.
Just snorting lines on the desk. Get Dottie back in here. Dottie, jot it down. Oh fuck. So Netflix puts out more specials than ever. Do you keep up with specials when writing?
Meaning,
I think basically what they were trying to ask is, do you watch specials while you're writing for a big thing? Or do you try to get away from comedy when you're trying to focus on your next hour, for example?
I don't watch very much comedy. And I think part of it is I don't want to absorb other people's material.
Right.
But I think another part of it is like I do watch some specials. Like anything Sebastian does, I'll watch. Do you know what I mean? I watch a lot. I shouldn't say I don't watch any. I watch a lot, I guess. But like, yeah, I don't look at it as a thing to stay away from when I'm writing, because I kind of write every day. You know, everything is like a bit or something I can try to think of and put down somewhere and just kind of move ideas around. You know, just to see, because that's kind of. You know, and then Twitter is very helpful for me. Like, I try to tweet one thing a day that is an attempt at a joke. So, you know, whether it's personal or just kind of observational about whatever, but those things, some of those things I've turned into jokes. I've taken from Twitter to the stage. Not all of it works. I try most of it, but if it isn't in my voice, it won't work, you know. But so no, I'll watch specials whenever. I don't stay away from them when I'm writing. Yeah, because it would be too. I don't have a set like I'm writing for this amount of months. Like I just constantly try to work. So
yeah,
I'll watch whatever I think this would be funny.
Now you play a Reaper in the new show, My Death Co. series.
Yeah, it's a web series on. You can get it on YouTube or the website mydeathco.com.
And we'll also link it in the video's tag. Who would you like to usher into the afterlife? I'm assuming it'd be somebody who's alive now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it would have to be somebody like I would say I would want to do it to anybody that needed it. Meaning, like, if they needed that help transitioning, or if they needed someone to be with them. You know what I mean?
Oh, I thought you meant like deserves to die.
No.
I thought you were like somebody who needs it.
I can never make that call. Even in the show, when he reads the names, that's not on him. That's not his call. He doesn't walk around just knocking people out. It's their time. So then he goes and he has to help them. He's supposed to help them find closure and find acceptance into what's happening. And the trick is to surrender to the flow, technically. But yeah, so I mean, it would be anybody who needed that kind of help. You know what I mean? That's who I would say. I don't have anyone in particular. I would like to be there for, you know, all my family members or all my friends if I could be, you know, because it's not. It can be a pretty scary thing, I think, and if someone might be there to calm you down, that might help. But
the show really does a beautiful way of kind of expressing everything you just explained. It is a comedy series, but there is heart to it.
It's a dark comedy, you could say, yeah, and then it gets progressively darker as it goes on. Like 1 starts out, you're like, okay, this guy's an idiot, you know, and then by 3 you're like, oh, okay, and then there's other stuff, and then 6 is like very dramatic and emotional, but there's also comedy in there. So it's a fine line. It's a weird balance, but Sean McDaniels and Ben Hammond, who direct and write that thing, do a tremendous job. Like the first, you know, you do these little independent things in Hollywood and LA, and not all of it's good. You know what I mean? You say yes to everything in the beginning because you want to act, you want to get in front of the camera, you want to try things, and you want to just try to be better at that. And these guys, I watched after the first one we shot, I was like, oh, you're good at this. And I never really had to look at a monitor again. I was like, if they say they got what they wanted, then I trust that they got what they wanted, you know. And they make it look. I mean, these are 6-minute episodes. This is a web series right now, but they make it look like a movie. They make it look cinematic. It looks awesome. And this is a world that we will be able to sell to somebody to open up that world in like a half-hour TV series And I don't think it's just going to stay on the web. I think it's got a lot of potential. And it's one of the things I'm most proud of right now because I was able to kind of build this character from the ground up and play a character for that long, the same character. Usually I come in, I do something that's quick. It's like, all right, now you're the office guy who farts a lot. And then you run out. Like if you do a commercial, you're not developing a character. You know what I mean? You're like doing what they ask you to do and then you leave for the day. So it was a great experience. And I hope that we continue to do it. Even if we don't sell it, I'd like to still keep doing it. We put it on another series on YouTube.
Oh, yeah. Now, is that like Skeleton Crew? Or are you guys just like running out there and shooting it quick on the fly? Or is that more like a little larger budget?
The last couple had an investor, had some guy who put some money into it. Yeah. So the last couple, there was a grip truck and there was a little bit more equipment. There was a little bit, we had a nicer camera. But the stuff that the first 4 episodes were shot based on their own money and what they had and friends they could borrow gear from and locations. Sean seems to know everybody's getting locations for free and then actors agree to do it for nothing. And I didn't get paid for it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And again, because I read the script and I was like, I want to do this and when I saw their footage, I was like, yeah, I want to keep doing this. This is great. Like it wasn't about money. It was also about getting to just act and like, it's something I can do and I can work at and practice and keep sharp,
Well, even with the cameras out today, I mean, you can get a decent camera at like a Best Buy or a Target that is absolutely fantastic. Is there a part of the country that's more difficult to get the laugh?
I don't know. I don't think so. The times I've struggled that I think about when different parts of the country I've been in, I also think about where I was as a comedian and how I wasn't really able to adapt or do anything different. And I just kind of had to like plow through it, but that was kind of on me. I never felt like that was the audience. I should have been more like, if they're not liking it, let's move on. I should talk to them. I should tell stories. I should do something else, I had reservations about, going to the South, but I was just down there and it was awesome. Alabama, I'd never even been to. The Punchline in Atlanta I
hear nothing but great things.
Oh my, that place, I went with Dan Cummins. Dude, people were in the parking lot pre-gaming for that comedy show. It was like,
they tailgate for it.
I go, you got like a Grateful Dead thing going on here, dude. Like we were walking the side door, people were yelling out, "Hey, oh man, brother," yelling things from the podcast. I was like, oh my God, dude. These people are into it. And that place was standing room only at the end. I mean, you could barely fit in there. And it was,
wow.
I mean, he could have done 6 nights there. It was crazy. It was crazy. And the audience it's very, it's hard because you get like a little bit of an inflated sense of who you are as a comic. Like there are places like the Comedy Works in Denver, Comedy on State in Madison, like those places. I mean, you do those shows. Those audiences are so good, and they love everything you do. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't seem to matter who you are as long as you've got material. They're there to laugh. And you walk away going, oh, man, I'm amazing. And then you go do some shitty bar show in L.A., and you're like, oh, wait, never mind. I'm still just a regular guy.
But also, I feel like there's certain parts of the country that it's not popping every night. LA or something.
That's true.
That you can go to 1,500 clubs in a year and never go into the same bar again.
Yeah.
Not just always comedy, but you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Nightclubs or this and that. There's stuff to do. So yeah, and more like, I'm sure I've always heard that Madison is a fucking great spot for comedy. I've heard Denver's alright, but just that fucking Punchline in Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, it was good. And you know what I like about Denver? They do the phone bags.
Yeah. Do you like doing that?
I thought it was awesome.
Yeah?
Yeah, I thought it was great because it when it wasn't even because I was worried about getting recorded or they were going to snipe my bits or whatever. I literally people focused more. The audience focuses more on what you're doing. They know they can't get to their phone. They know they have to leave if they need to use their phone. Their phone doesn't vibrate in there. They can't feel it like going. They don't know. So that's it. They just forget their phone, which more people should do. Like when you're at a live event, take in the live event. Who are you there with? What are you doing? How are you feeling about it? Are you having a good time? Like enjoy yourself at the event. Concerts, comedy, sports, like I get it. You want to take a picture with everybody you're there with. Take a quick photo, fine. But, like, then enjoy the event. You know what I mean? Like, you can't, like, all the pictures are never going to bring you back to feeling the way you felt when you were going through. So just, like, feel that. Remember it.
Would you say, you've done theaters before, right? Have you ever done theater work?
I have done some theaters via the Laugh Here Asheville Comedy Festival in
nice.
North Carolina. They had their final show was at a nice theater, but I've never done like a theater on my own or anything.
Now, I would say this because I've gotten to see it from the back of the room in theaters, and I've gotten to see it in the back of the room from smaller clubs like Zany's, for example, like where you're recording your special at. That room is legendary. It feels so perfect for comedy just because it can fit a lot of people, but it's like you're in a basement. It's like you're hanging out at your buddy's house. It's like a very personal setting. And when you're in those theater environments trying to watch comedy off to the side, there's so many people getting up and so many distractions. Like, you can't even really listen to the comedian because there's 20 rows of seats and 13 out of these 20 people are going to try getting up at some point. And people are just running back and forth to the bar because you can only get 2 beers a person or something weird.
Right.
And it's so, it interrupts everything. I don't know. That's just my strange little opinion on it. I didn't go off on a tangent or anything.
I haven't been at too many theater shows. I do agree with you that Zany's feels like somebody's basement, and that is definitely part of the appeal. And like
it's
everyone
fantastic.
is in there, and everyone is paying attention. And even like last night, we didn't have a huge crowd in there. You know, it wasn't a huge crowd, but man, they paid attention. It was everything you could hope for on a Wednesday night. You know, it was like
for a show in the middle of the week, and everyone was responsive too. Though it's not like there was anyone trying to fucking snooze just in there for a nap or something.
No. And it helps when like Vic and Steven were very funny. You know what I mean? Like having those guys. Oh, but that's good. That's good booking. I had nothing to do with it, but I'm just saying it's good booking. You know.
Would you say when you were at their level, or even just hosting at places, did you ever host anywhere?
The only time I ever really emceed, I did it for Harlan Williams a couple times so that I could then feature for him later on down the road because he just needed an MC, and I said, yeah, I would do it. So I'll definitely MC or host if there's money involved. You know what I mean? If I, like the improvs will usually pay me if I was going to host something, I would host it at the Brea or the Irvine Improv, and that would be a little bit of money. So I would rather drive down there, host, get paid than to do comedy at a bar for free and not get paid.
Right. I guess my question also would be, has there been times where you got kind of stiffed out of the deal? Was there ever times where you go to a show and it's just like, well, we had to cancel the show for this reason, and you had to take your time out to get there?
No. I mean, when they cancel shows on you and you're booked, usually you get paid for that night. I was just at a club up north, and they had nobody buy tickets for the late show Friday, so they canceled it. But that is not all on me, so they still pay me. And then the only time I've been on my way to a show, and then they called to tell me that my time had been drastically cut, you know. But I think they still gave me some money. I was like driving from LA to San Diego. The Comedy Store in San Diego in La Jolla called and they said, hey, would you feature for Doug Stanhope? And I was like, yeah, I will. So I was like already in my car like 5 seconds after that conversation ended on my way to San Diego. And I got halfway down there and they call back and go, oh shit, sorry. Doug is bringing, he brought John Doerr and Lynn Showcroft. And he said, they were like, but if you're already, I'm more than halfway there. I'm just coming down. Let me do 5 to 10 or whatever. And then me, John, and Lynn all kind of split the feature time. So I still got time, and I got to see Doug, you know, at the Comedy Store in La Jolla. And John Doerr, holy shit, is that guy funny. Like, John Doerr is so funny. Like, it can be just in anything he does. Like, and he goes, what did he say to me? I go, hey man, if you want to do more time or whatever. He goes, no, dude, I'll do the same amount of time. I don't give a shit. And he goes, I'm not even going to do anything. And I go, what? And he literally got up there and did one of those like, okay, all right, okay, all right, okay, so, okay, all right. But like, not annoying and very funny for like 7 minutes.
And he just got away with it.
I was dying. I was like, Jesus, dude. And when someone can do that, because that to me would be annoying if anyone else did it. But he made it funny. He did say some other things, and he might have done that, I got a heart I got my heart on caught in a hammock. And then he's like comes out with that, and he's like, oh, I never thought I'd get it out. It was like, dude, he's so funny. He's so funny.
Dude. Congratulations, man. You get paid to go around making funny. And you get, a fairly comfortable life.
My wife helps with that, by the way.
Rock your dream, though.
Yeah.
And you have a wonderful woman in your life who helps with that.
And I also...
Did you meet her before comedy or after?
I met her, actually, at this show, at this shitty bar in Playa del Rey, which is no longer in existence.
The bar's on his shirt, folks.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah. It was called the Sports Harbor, but these two guys ran a comedy show there. And Matt Neal and Brian McWilliams, and they were, it was an Eagles bar. They're Eagles fans from Philly. And they ran a comedy show at this bar that I would have never heard of, except that a guy I worked with and I'm friends with, Michael Malik, knew those guys from watching football with him. And then he was like, oh, you guys have a comedy show? Oh, my friend John is a comic. And they're like, oh, yeah, we know John. He should come and do the show. And so Mike Malik called me and was like, hey, you want to do my friend's show? And at first I was like, no, not really, man. Let's drive to Playa del Rey. I don't want to do that. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll do your friend's show. Because another friend of mine lived in the area and they were going to come out, so we'd all be hanging out together, seeing some friends I hadn't seen in a while, and get to do a spot. So I was like, yeah, that sounds great. And my wife was sitting in the front row. She was like at that show. She supported that show. She knew those guys and always went every week and like had a good time. And afterwards came up and we started talking. I mean, there's more to it. I thought she was trying to hug me. She was trying to cheers me. I don't know what I was doing, but I put my beer down and like hugged her. She was like, what are you doing? What? And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were trying to hug me. She goes, I don't even know you. Why would I hug you? I'm like, I don't know. But that started the whole thing.
Does your wife have a sense of humor?
Yes, my wife is very funny.
I was going to say, that's got to be very important in your household.
Dude, everybody around me, my brother is probably the funniest person I know who will never go on stage. My wife is hilarious and also probably a better actor than she would give herself credit for, but she has no desire to do any of that. So that was like what I told her when we were on our first date. I was like, do you want to be a comedian? She goes, no. I go, an actress? She goes, no. I go, are you sure this is going to be something like 5 years down the road? You want to do some open mics? And she's like, no. And I go, all right. Because let me just be honest. If this relationship is going to work, there can only be one needy piece of shit in it, and that has to be me. She was like, okay, finish your hamburger. And that was it. We were together forever.
That's badass, man. Well, congratulations on getting you an adult wife.
Yeah. She works in TV, but she's great.
Any stoner stories by chance? Ever get a little too high? On the hog?
Yeah, man. I mean, I did it a couple times in Peoria at the jukebox. Those local guys are great. You know what I mean? They're so the first time I ever went there, I went with Henry Phillips, and they all loved Henry. You know, Henry is a lovable dude. Like, also, if you don't know Henry Phillips, God, do yourself a favor. Watch Henry's Kitchen and just go Google everything Henry Phillips because he's so goddamn funny. But we were at a party and he was telling me, he said something like casually, like, you're on the road all the time. And I go, dude, I'm never on the road. And he goes, what? That doesn't seem right. You're hilarious. And I was like, that's nice of you to say, but no one I know will take me on the road. He's like, do you want to come to Peoria? And I was like, yeah. So Henry got on the phone with somebody that night, got me the gig. I went to Peoria with him. When I get there, he's like a celebrity there. They love him. And all those comics that came out to see him then loved me. And we all got along. And it was like, a lot of them had just started out, but one of them, Jeff Bailey, just headlined the jukebox. You know what I mean? So it's
yeah.
So these guys are moving up, and really, they were comedy fans. They just loved comedy, and they loved getting high. And we would, I was just a feature, so we would get high. It wouldn't be a big deal. And I wouldn't get high usually before the show, but then when I came back to headline, I went out in between shows one night and we got ripped in the parking lot. And I realized as soon as the second show started, I was like, I should not have done that. Like, it was just a lot of me smiling and going, all right, okay, But it wasn't a crowded show. It was all just, the whole thing was just a little bit on the awkward side. But now, since then, I've kind of learned, like, during the day, yeah, but not within hours before a show. And then I just save it for afterwards. It's a great wind down, travel with a vape pen or whatever. It's great.
Never get any issues through security or anything?
No, I've been flying out of LA with joints in my Q-tip bin since I moved there. And now I just put that pen in there and nobody cares. No one cares.
It's got to be so strange to live in a place where
that's just so legal. You know what I mean? Like, when you really think about it, because you go around the country a lot, and you know that, yeah, you've walked down a sidewalk in California, and there goes a puff of smoke next to you, and you're just like, oh, right on, I got a whiff. And you walk past it, but that doesn't happen in virtually the rest of the country.
Anybody else gets a whiff, they're like, what's going on over there?
Right.
Where's that
Especially
coming
in the
from?
more rural areas.
Yeah.
But ironically, I'm sure in your line of work, it's a lot more loose in those parking lots because it's people going out to see a comedy show of all things.
Yeah. I mean, flying, I don't have any problem, but I do have to be careful when you get to a place that it's not legal and it's not as well received or looked at, Because I've even said it, like, usually when I say, like, that I have anything to do with weed, the audience will clap or laugh or whatever, and there have been times when they were like, oh, well, we don't really care for that. You know what I mean? So you're like, oh, maybe I should not be mentioning marijuana because, like...
There goes 10 minutes.
There, yeah, right. Like, okay, I guess we're going to do some crowd work.
Yeah, we got some church stuff over here. Well, John, thank you so much for kicking back with me, man.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me.
I truly appreciate it. Like I said, I'm a fan, and I just... This has warmed my little heart on this cold, rainy April day.
Love it.
You have a few more shows going on tonight, tomorrow, and Saturday.
Yep.
And I figure it'll probably already be over here, but we will then link your next coming dates. When's the next run? I got dates with Dan Cummins, Punchline in San Francisco, and Good Nights in Raleigh, North Carolina. And then I'm headlining the Comedy Loft in DC July 18th and 19th. And I have one more. I'm going to be at Laughs in Boston in June. You can get tour dates at johnhuck.me. Yep, and I will link that underneath in the description below. No, it's cool, man. I was just curious. And My Death Co. You guys can find that on all social media platforms. It's just on YouTube as well, right?
Yeah, you can just Google it and it'll pull up how to watch it. They're quick 5-6 minute episodes, and I think you'll enjoy it.
I fucking dig it, guys, and highly recommend it. It's awesome because we're so programmed to digest content as quickly as possible to where we have things called Vines where it's like make a 6-second joke. And there's fucking people who are pretty goddamn good at it, apparently. And
if anything, social media has taught me how to cut the fat. You know what I mean? Like in Twitter, you only have so many characters. You got to be funny in there. You can't ramble on and on and on to get to a point. It's actually helped me write.
Right on, man. Literally right on, because I want more comedy out of you. I really enjoy it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. Folks at home, look him up, laugh, make funny. We love you. We'll catch you real soon. Later. Thanks, man.
Dude, yeah, that was great.
Fuck yeah.
Folks, I hope you all had a blast. Thank you very much for sticking around to the end. This is another episode of Hi and Hello. Don't forget, we give this shit to you for free. You want to pay us back? Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that. Write us a review. That actually could help us more than you'd ever know. You can also check us out on Podbean. We're on YouTube. We're on Stitcher Radio. Facebook, of course. Instagram. We don't fuck around with Twitter. We said that episodes ago. But if you want to check out John, check him out on social media, Jon_Huck. You can check him out at his website, johnhuck.me. And if you are in San Francisco, Boston, Jacksonville, or Raleigh, North Carolina, buckle the fuck up because he is coming to your city with Dan Cummins. San Fran, he's playing the Punchline May 1st through the 4th. Boston, he'll be out there May 9th through the 11th. Jacksonville, May 31st through June 1st. And Raleigh, North Carolina, June 13th through the 15th. More dates will be available as they are announced. You can find all that once again at johnhuck.me. You can find him, Jon_Huck, on all social media. You can also check out his new series that he is leading in, My Death Co. on YouTube. I think 4 out of the 5 episodes are already released. They're fantastic. They're really funny, but they also tug on the heartstrings at the right moment. He's really got something with this project. So I'm very happy for him. You folks should be as well. Check it out. Give him subscribes. Give him likes. Give him all that good stuff. That does it for us. Once again, thank you to John for all of your help over this process to get you on the show. You were one of the coolest cats I could have asked to have in the chair, so thank you so much. Folks at home, like, hi, and hello, subscribe. hit the like button, smash it as the kids say. All that good shit. We're just going to play it out. 420's over. Easter's over. There's going to be plenty of time to get candy from strangers later on in the year. We'll get to it as it comes. Enjoy this beautiful weather. We're not all frozen anymore. You're able to go outside and not see your fucking breath. Take advantage of it. Take the family on a walk. Go. If you got cows, go fucking herd them. If you got sheep, get your dog to do it. Other than that, it's Tyler as always. Love you guys. Be safe, be kind, be good to each other. We'll see you next week. Ooh, that song gets me every time. I have no idea what they're saying in this song, but goddamn, it's just groovy as shit. Here it goes. Whoa, señorita. Got you guys soon. Later. Llama la policía. Bebida o tequila, locura y alegría. Oh, señorita, policía, wunderbar.